2021 to really think about the technology, because again, that's my background. We're always thinking about, from a SHO group standpoint, we're always thinking about the future and what we can be doing to take advantage of interesting capabilities and technologies that are out there. And we really saw the value of tokenizing our membership.
Thank you so much for tuning into Journey with Christian D. Evans podcast. I'm your host, Christian D. Evans. And guys, we have an internationally recognized thought leader, an innovator across the food and beverage and health and wellness industries. We're so excited about having him on. From consumer products, grocery retail, or hospitality, distribution, and technology industry, this man is recognized for his disruptive approach to historically antiquated industry and his unusual experience in nearly every discipline across food. He is the CEO and founder of SHO Group. They are on a mission to defy expectations and shift perspective through the creation of meaningful moments and interactions that rewrite the rules of hospitality. They have an incredible synergistic duo between the founder as well as himself. Two worlds together under one roof as award-winning chef Shatara Sho Camillo teams up with an entrepreneur and food technology industry veteran Josh Sigel, which is our next guest. Please welcome my next guest, the one and only Josh Sigel. How you doing today, Josh?
I'm great. Wow, that was an introduction, man. Geez. I think we should just stop now.
Well, Josh, I'm really looking forward to actually unpacking this thesis a little bit. But before we dive into, what SHO Group is doing, and obviously the innovative things that you guys are doing in the San Francisco Bay, and just the kind of cool concept in the restaurant biz, definitely with Salesforce, and that's a cool agreement and all that fun stuff. But I want to ask you this real quick, Josh. You see the macro hospitality restaurant biz. You've been in the food and beverage business for a while. What do you feel like is just so unauthentic, or why do you like to bring innovation and disrupting that industry, and what do you think needs to be disrupted?
Well, I think as a whole, I talk a lot about disruption within the food industry. Of course, hospitality and restaurants specifically are part of that. But I think as a whole, the food industry for many years has been slow to innovate. It's always been a little bit behind. And I think that's driven primarily by, first and foremost, innovation takes investment. And the food industry has operated oftentimes, I come from the wholesale food distribution business back in the day. We operated on, pennies on the dollar. So it was more difficult for those types of companies to find the funds and the capital, to innovate. And then I think there was just a lot of stagnation, a lot of oftentimes various industries, don't always attract individuals at large that are really trying to move the needle. And I think up until recently, particularly, Amazon making a major play in the world of food, acquiring Whole Foods, until, I'd say the last 5 years, like we've really seen a major change in food and innovation and the speed in which the industry is moving now as a whole. On the hospitality world and the restaurant world, same holds true. I think when we look at restaurants, the restaurant model, the world of hospitality, there's really only a handful of players out there today that I think we can say are really moving the needle, are really trying to rethink the model of hospitality. What does it mean to be a restaurateur? How do we think about community? How do we think about the role that these types of establishments and places have in people's lives? And in the reality, when we think about special moments and memories at SHO Group, we often think about personally, how many times when you look back at a special moment in life, a celebration, a special occasion, celebrating a business deal, how many times did that take place at a restaurant, or over food? And I think for most people, the answer is quite often, right? And so when we think about the role the world of food, hospitality, restaurants, nightlife can play in people's lives, we think that there's more work that can be done, a lot more opportunity, a lot more innovation. We're certainly not the only people who see it and think that and are really trying to, raise the game. But that's certainly what SHO Group is all about.
So this is interesting thesis in regards to kind of when you mean innovation, it's not more like a consumer side. It is more of that community aspect or engagement or leveraging technology to be able to, experience this holistically as you go and it becomes a movement, if you will. Is that correct in regards to how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's like it's experiential innovation at first, right? It's we are responsible for creating special moments and memories for people. That's what we do. And so how do you innovate around that? It's about expanding that role. It's about going beyond what is simply expected, first and foremost. And then I think there's innovation that can happen at other levels, like the way you deliver those memories and moments. And that can include technology, that can include service, that can include space, architecture, the physical surroundings, which we are certainly innovating around. But it starts at that kind of that seed of a mission is, when we think about the memory, the moment, what comprises of that. And I think if we all think about that for a moment, there's so much to do with everything, right? It's the food, it's the drink, it's, like I said, the space, the service, the server, everything, plays a role in that. And we're thinking about all of those fronts and then how you innovate beyond that. And then how do you really take that and build community and build something that can expand beyond the physical space. And that's something that, our membership focus is really all about, developing an exclusive membership experience around a physical restaurant that is publicly available. Well, what does that really mean? What's the benefit? And for us, the benefit is it's about community. It's about exclusivity. It's about creating a level of access for individuals who really appreciate, those types of offerings that go well beyond what you would simply expect from an incredibly exclusive, high-end, culinary, entertainment, and nightlife experience.
Yeah, and you guys had a really cool approach in regards to it. We're going to talk about that here shortly. But before we dive into it, I want to talk a little bit about your evolution, the story behind how it got established. And you saw San Francisco area, a lot of very well-known area, a lot of things going on. Love to tell that story of obviously what you saw, the trajectory, and why you guys were able to really build this amazing concept and building this amazing concept and with you guys' thesis. So I'd love to talk a little bit about that story, how SHO Group has come alive and what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, I mean, the story of SHO Group really goes back to my partner SHO, who the group is named after, despite his initial pushback. I said, look, all great restaurant brands oftentimes, are named after their chefs, and I'm a big believer that we're very much kind of a food first business. So that's how the name came about. And when we started thinking about SHO, it really first came down to the space. Our flagship location, the first location of SHO, will be located on top of Salesforce Park, which is the park that is essentially the roof of this new transit center that was recently built in the city. Some refer to it as like the Grand Central Station of the West. And so SHO and I met through my previous work at a tech startup, and we were connected. And he's been chefing in the area for many years. He happened to be in a restaurant one day 20 years ago. Same person would come in every day, like twice a day for lunch and dinner. That happened to be Mark Benioff. Mark and SHO became very good friends. Mark started making a lot of introductions to SHO, and that's really how he became very well known in the Silicon Valley area as like the Silicon Valley Japanese chef, the Japanese chef to the Silicon Valley elite, I guess you would say. And SHO mentioned to me, hey, Mark mentioned that there's a restaurant location on top of Salesforce Park. We need to check this thing out. We went up there and we just were blown away, by the opportunity. This is like beyond Tavern on the Green meets the High Line, within the city of San Francisco, overlooked by, every major corporation in the city, in terms of the buildings, all look down upon this incredible location. And we were one of, 5 or 6 other hospitality companies vying for this space. But the unique approach that we took was really thinking about the world of technology, because of course, here we are in the motherland of technology, Silicon Valley, downtown San Francisco. Let's embrace my background as a technologist and as a technology leader, and SHO's background as an incredible chef and restaurateur and business operator, and bring those two things together to create SHO. And from there, we started thinking more broadly. Maybe this isn't just about a single location in San Francisco. Maybe this is about developing a platform and a restaurant group. And we believe that, the San Francisco location will certainly open up other opportunities. We already have some other projects in the works as well, but what we're really focusing on is this flagship location. So that's how it all came about, and it's really been a great partnership that he and I have formed, coming from these two different worlds, very little overlap, but certainly both with incredible backgrounds and a lot of knowledge that can that helps bringing something like this to fruition.
Yeah, and you guys are backed by a lot of tech CEOs in that area, and that's why I just want to highlight that. Very, very highly reputable individuals. A CEO from Dropbox, CEO from Twilio, which is really awesome. Obviously, from CEO Mark Benioff. I want to talk a little bit about you mentioned obviously the community, the experience, the exclusivity of it, the location, and it becomes this bigger experience than just this, transactional, hey, I went to, eat there. It's this network almost effect. I want to ask, was that an evolution, or even you're adding technology in there as well, which we're going to be talking about here shortly, but was that an evolution within itself, or was that how you guys approached this new concept right off the bat and said, hey, we want this concept to be something drastically different than a typical restaurant concept?
Yeah, I think my brain is always kind of looking to solve problems, and so I don't think we're not about innovation for innovation's sake, or technology for technology's sake, or trying to do things different just because. But we're really thinking about what is the city of San Francisco and the broader Bay Area? What does the area need? What do people want? What do the tech entrepreneurs of the industry, or of the area, I should say? And that's not just tech. It's we've got every industry in mind: real estate, finance, law, biotech. Now is obviously very, very, very big in San Francisco. Many other industries are obviously, home, make San Francisco their home. And so we really started thinking about, what does the city need? And what we recognized was that here you have this incredible city with incredible history and a reputation for culinary excellence and great restaurants. Yet so many of us continue to kind of yearn and desire those types of culinary entertainment experiences that you would find in other major cities that you really don't find in San Francisco. And I think for people who are familiar with San Francisco, they know what I mean when I say that. When you think of some of the major players out there, whether it's the Nobus, the Taos, the Lavos, Carbone, SDK, there's a certain level of energy and excitement when you walk into these establishments. And they also, many of them also kind of have a carryover into the nightlife world. So they're offering incredible food, incredible service, and also a really fun and cool place to hang out and congregate. And we just don't have a lot of that in San Francisco. So that's really where the innovation is driven from, is that is the need. That's the problem. San Francisco lacks high-end culinary entertainment and nightlife destinations, period. Now, given we understand that, let's first think about why that's the case. What is so different about San Francisco than Miami, New York, LA, Las Vegas, that it doesn't have these kinds of things? Is it that they won't work in San Francisco? Is it that, San Franciscans don't want these types of things? Like, no, that's not the reason at all. I think it's just a function of no one's probably been bold enough and probably been in a position where all the stars are, kind of aligned to be able to pull off something. And if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. And you got to do it. When I say right, it's also do it at the level and caliber that I think San Francisco and kind of the broader Bay Area is worthy of. So that's really what drove this desire to want to kind of rethink the way that these types of experiences and businesses are brought to market. And then from there, we started really thinking about, how to evolve and to kind of create a unique personality and a unique brand that isn't just, built and focused around San Francisco. I think SHO as a brand and as an offering and as a business could certainly do very well in any major city. But each city has its own nuances. And when you're building experiential culinary entertainment and nightlife, you've got to take each of those nuances in mind, just like any other major hospitality, project does. Like a fantastic brand like the W, is always thinking about its core, and then they're thinking about how to localize it. And so for us, much of the innovation that we think about is very much driven around how to kind of localize the experience and think about the needs of the market that we're building in. And of course, that market right now is San Francisco.
Well, see, Josh, when we were talking offline about this concept, I'm not a San Francisco native at all and not familiar. And of course, I just naturally, definitely since Silicon Valley has been the pivot point, the hotspot for everything within the last 10 years, I assumed that there was natural things like this. But the reality is that it's so funny that there isn't, right? You think about New York, you think about all these other places, they do have a lot of that experience, that environment. And you mentioned offline, Josh, where you have these top execs that are running multi-billion dollar companies. They're bringing all their investors in, but they have no place to go. And again, you're able to, pivot yourself in that specific situation and be that hotspot for all those environments, all those, and you have different pillars within that. You talk about, and I want to talk about your SHO Club, which I found very interesting. We were talking a little bit about it, and you guys named it after. Well, first of all, I want to let you take point guard on the things that you named it after. You named it after the elements, which I thought was really cool. So where did that idea come from? And then explain a little bit about your SHO Club and what it includes.
Yeah, there's actually 5 elements in Japanese culture that are very much a part of the history. And even, these elements also get into Buddhism as well. But typically it's, earth, water, and then you have fire, sky, and wind. Or you have, and there's other kind of words that are used. But we think a lot about the elements. This was really introduced to me through SHO, my partner, because as a chef, he thinks a lot about the use of fire, the use of the earth, and leveraging soil and how things are grown, and water, and all these different kinds of elements. And so when it came to architecting the space, we thought a lot about that. The first level, which actually features an Aurori cooking experience, an Aurori fireplace, which is it's inspired by a Japanese farmhouse style of cooking that back in the day was utilized really as first and foremost a source of heat for the home, and then it was also utilized as a flame for cooking. We thought, okay, first level is going to all be about the flame. It's going to all be about fire, and second level is going to be about water, and then of course we have the sky, and we have the sky lounge. And so we started to kind of play around with these ideas of the elements. And then we decided to extend that to our membership offering tiers. And we came up with these 3 different tiers initially, which was earth, water, and fire member tiers, with each with their own unique benefits. And as I shared, we're continuing to kind of evolve and think a lot about the membership offering. We're big believers in the value of creating community, creating exclusive, memberships where we can deliver a level of service and access that is very, ultimately hard or sometimes even impossible to do at scale. So we're thinking, a lot about that. I think for those who stay close to hospitality, you can see that membership is something that is, picking up and beginning to gain a lot of traction. Certainly in London and the UK, there's a lot of membership, different types of membership houses and clubs that are offer. For those of us, we know of Soho House, kind of, which is more at scale. We're not really thinking of ourselves as a Soho House necessarily. We're very much thinking about, a membership that is really built and tailored around the culinary experience and the nightlife experience that, we are able to offer. And so, the thinking of the club really evolved from how do we create community in this extraordinary place that we live in called San Francisco? How do we bring together the luminaries, the tastemakers, the movers and shakers of the surrounding area, and even beyond? Frankly, we have a lot of interest from people who simply visit often and are looking for a place to come and to congregate and for a community to tap into. And we thought a lot about, thinking about diversity and thinking again about like what are these individuals looking for? How can we add value? And as anything goes, like we've been rethinking and pivoting the membership strategy a little bit, because what we're realizing and seeing is that there is a need to thoughtfully curate, a membership base, and that each incremental individual, is a building block of value to that community. And it's not about just, for us, it's not about going out and selling memberships so that we can make as much money as possible, which then in turn we can use to capitalize the project. We really started to think, and through a lot of feedback, we started thinking about how do we go about this in a really pragmatic, thoughtful way? How do we bring in memberships? And we believe, over time we'll have hundreds of members where this will be highly exclusive, likely a multi-year wait list to become a member of SHO Club. Members will have access, to a members only lounge that only they, can go into, with other types of benefits. And it will really all be about, again, curating a really unique and exclusive community of people who create synergistic value, for one another. And we'll have membership events. But I think, right now, as we shared with you, our membership currently, we're really only offering to investors. And the reason for that, again, is to really kind of hyper focus on that exclusivity. We've got, people like professional athletes interested in joining, a lot of great tech founders, names you would recognize, but then a lot of people who, you may not recognize, but who are really culturally significant individuals, or doing things in the world that are really incredible and impressive. And so our focus is to bring those people together, under one roof and under one membership club, to create something that's like really special and unique, for not only the city, but again, I think those benefits can extend to people who simply travel or just want to come into San Francisco and aren't finding, those unique offerings, because in San Francisco, there's not many of them.
Well, what I find so interesting about your guys' approach is, I'm very familiar with golf clubs, or also, different exclusive clubs in that regard, but not where the main thesis is from a restaurant, and then it, develops the nightlife and builds a community around that as its thesis. I know a lot of high caliber restaurants, but I'm not sure if there's that community aspect, which I found that very interesting. So it's very unorthodox in that approach. But also I wanted to highlight your guys' pivot toward NFTs. Now, you're not using it for the crypto aspect, but you're leveraging it as the smart contracts that the NFT platform sits on, which I thought was really, really revolutionary. If you could expand upon, obviously, your thought process in leveraging that technology, NFT, as the club membership that can obviously then be, resold to other members, exclusive kind of structure. How did that evolve? I'd love to understand that.
I think the whole NFT, the whole NFT evolution, or the whole NFT industry has seen, this major surge. Like we obviously, late 2021, 2022 was really the NFT craze. And, we didn't really get wrapped up in that per se, but we certainly took the time in late 2021 to really think about the technology, because again, that's my background. We're always thinking about, from a SHO group standpoint, we're always thinking about the future and what we can be doing to take advantage of interesting capabilities and technologies that are out there. And we really saw the value of tokenizing our membership for a few different reasons. Like, first and foremost, security and the ability to, have a membership that exists on a blockchain is pretty unique. We think that that's going to become, the future. I often say that, like, a tokenized membership will eventually be no different than an NFT-based concert ticket or, an airline ticket. I think we'll begin to see that the underlying technology, which essentially is blockchain, will be utilized and is already being brought to bear in these different industries. So timing wise, we kind of got caught up perhaps in the NFT hype cycle, but we've always been very pragmatic and very, very consistent that this is a real life experience, with, as we say, IRL in the Web3 world, right? But this isn't pixels. This isn't a digital piece of art that you're buying. You're buying a membership just like any other exclusive high-end membership. We're simply leveraging the NFT technology to be able to extend to you essentially a digital version of a membership card that you, as the holder, have the right to sell. And we'll have some stipulations and some some guidelines in terms of where that membership can be sold, how it can be sold, who it can be sold to. But ultimately, we really wanted to invest into the future of where we saw the world going, which is, tokenized membership technologies, using these as token gates, the ability to kind of have someone come in and scan their phone and be able to validate, yes, this is a member, and be able to track kind of the exchange of that membership through its life cycle. So that's really kind of the drivers behind wanting to leverage the whole entire NFT technology stack.
Yeah, I just thought it was really cool that you're leveraging it as a club membership. Like you mentioned, obviously NFT is just a smart contract platform that you're leveraging for your membership, and it is very exclusive. There's only so many that are out there, and that's kind of what you're establishing. So I just want to highlight, I just thought that was really cool. People are gravitating toward the NFT space. I want to loop back around. We talk about experience, and one thing I love about restaurants, and definitely high caliber restaurants, is the such intricate details that they focus on. It is about the brand, but it is about the experience, even from the website to, getting to the event to experiencing throughout the whole, restaurant, to afterwards as well, and building that community. You mentioned just recently how you're able to leverage the elements and how you were able to really integrate that, even the structure and the look of the property, but also, it's part of the membership. So it's ingrained to the DNA of the SHO group kind of philosophy. And I thought that was so interesting. Mm-hmm. If we could, I want to really kind of gravitate. You mentioned that obviously you're talking to high-level CEOs, high-level execs, a lot of investors, A-class celebrities, all sorts of individuals that are going to be coming to SHO group, right? I want to understand how you guys approach that small, intricate kind of DNA structure of integrating all the experience that you want to ensure your clients and your customers experience or feel once they like, oh man, that was awesome. I've been to a SHO group event or SHO group property. And that's kind of how your DNA is structured.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think as restaurateurs and as people in the world of hospitality, we think about this exact question, each and every day, every minute of the day, every second of the day, because this is really what it's all about. This is what differentiates, the best from the rest, as they say, and it really comes down, frankly, to the team and to talent. It's about, for us, it's about human interaction. It's about treating every single guest, regardless of who they are, whether it's a well-known name, a celebrity, a CEO, a head of state who's coming in the up the freight elevator with rolling with deep security. It doesn't really matter to us. Every single guest is a guest of our home, and we really try to think of our home as an extension of theirs. And so, from the moment someone touches SHO as an experience, and that, as you mentioned, that starts with a website, that starts with any extension of the experience outside those four walls, we're thinking deeply about that interaction, about how that is going to impact that guest. And then particularly when they walk in, we're very much thinking the same way. How do you create that sensation of home? How do you create that sensation of belonging? You don't want to walk into a place and feel like a stranger. No one ever feels good when they get that sensation. But that's created through human interaction. That's created through people. That's created through a team that has been empowered to go beyond, what is normal, and to think of every single interaction without the confines of boundaries, without the confines of rules, with just the simple directive of of creating a special moment and memory for that individual. And so, we've taken we've studied, I think, the best, experiential dining concepts in the world. We've talked to some of the greatest, restaurateurs and people who operate a lot of these very well-known establishments, who very much emulate this notion of it's about, hospitality at the individual level. So I can't really necessarily, talk in terms of here's the methodology, here's the approach. I mean, certainly we have it and we have our own, and it's the secret sauce. But I can distill it down to a fundamental belief that to create those special memories and moments, and to offer that level of service, and to create that level of that sensation that someone gets when they interact with SHO Group, or that they're involved in a SHO Group experience, it's very much about, catering to the need of the individual, and thinking about, how you do that each and every time at scale, and empowering people to know that that's first above everything else. Like that's their job. We all wear different hats. We've got, chefs and cooks in the kitchen. We've got wait staff. We've got people, tending the bar. But ultimately, we all have the same job at the end of the day, which is to really just create those special moments and memories for our guests.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so fun, because, just like I look at Disney, obviously, it doesn't matter if you're a 50-year-old, you go to Disney World and it's just like you're like a little kid again, right? They have that experience, that magical whatever. And I think that's why I find it so interesting about what you guys are doing, and how you guys are really thinking about it intellectually, but also at an emotional level in regards to just the experience and how much thought you put into that, where it becomes a SHO experience, right? And that becomes almost like a verb, if you will. Have you had a SHO experience, right? You need that. I want to ask a little bit micro in the hospitality industry. There's a lot of verticals or concepts.
You mentioned Disneyland.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned Disneyland. My wife and I were just there. We took our daughter there last week. She doesn't look like this anymore. She's a little bigger now, so no worries. But and yeah, I mean, you're dead on. Like Disney in general, I think, is one of the pioneers, of thinking about this notion of like of being, on stage, right? And every single door that leads to like a back entrance is all like referred to as backstage, right? You come through that door and you're a cast member, you're on a show, and you're performing, whether you are the janitor, a ride operator, an executive, it doesn't really matter. You're on a stage and you're performing and you're creating an experience. And it's funny you mentioned that because, my wife was just reminiscing like yesterday or even this morning, I think, saying, I already missed Disney. I already missed Disneyland. It's so crazy. Like, despite all of the chaos and the lines and the insanity, of what Disneyland is, particularly when you're taking a 2-year-old, I already miss it, and it's those like sound bites, it's those thoughts that I cherish and I think about and I just constantly, obsess over like, okay, why is that? What is that? What is it that they're doing, right? And how to be cognizant of it and continue to learn from those kinds of things, I think is a great example. So sorry to riff on that a bit, but I wanted to share some additional thoughts on that.
No, that's brilliant. And I want to get a little micro with it since we're kind of going down this path a little bit, because in the hospitality business, there are a lot of different concepts. And because you have such a macro, thesis in regards to what SHO Group is going to be about, it's going to be much more than just a restaurant. It's going to be a whole enterprise of experience, and the SHO experience, if you will. I want to ask, because you mentioned nightlife. And there's different verticals within the nightlife, right? There's that college scene. There's obviously the Fort Lauderdale, Miami scene. And then there's obviously more, sophisticated club experience. And you said that numerous times. So again, we're getting micro with it, but I want to, when you're thinking about nightlife, when you're thinking about these events, you're thinking about these community exclusive events that only members are, able to attend, et cetera. How do you think about that in morphing, even the restaurant biz and making sure, hey, you know what, this is kind of how we want the caliber. This is the conversation. It's not going to be some prostitutes or whatever. It's more of this next level, and deals are getting done. Peace treaties are making happen and all that fun stuff, right? Like you mentioned. So how are you structuring that? How are you thinking about that, Josh?
I mean, I think, there's two different pieces that you mentioned. There's the restaurant and as a whole, right? That's open to the public. And so you're oftentimes a little bit more limited on, how you can curate that, those guests, because ultimately we're open to the public and everyone's invited. So, question A first is, for kind of the public offering side, which is, the large part of the restaurant, the Sky Lounge, the public will be able to access that. It's about creating an environment that, that let's say, that an environment that we believe and understand kind of attracts, not necessarily a certain type, because we really want to be very broad, but that creates more so a certain environment. That when environments are elevated, when service is top notch, when guests are held to the same standard as the staff and vice versa, you typically have kind of a self-selection process where certain people who are looking for those types of experiences are going to gravitate towards them. And, some of the younger, more rowdy, college types and kids, like, those types of experiences are probably not going to be suitable for them. It's not going to necessarily be something that they're attracted to, et cetera. So I think on the public side, oftentimes it's a lot about, curation of the overall experience. Price points matter. They do have a tendency of kind of self-selecting or vetting, different types of individuals. And then it's on top of that, it's the food, it's the service, it's the overall experience, and I think then there's just some mindfulness that has to go into how to kind of curate that and put it together in a way that creates the type of environment and crowd that we stand for and that we're excited to create. On the membership side, that's really where the curation comes in, right? We're really thinking about the types of individuals that we want to host and have be a part of this club, this exclusive club. And so, I think it's a great question, because when you think about the energy and the atmosphere and the environment that these types of kind of higher end, more exclusive, more intimate types of environments have, the question is like, how do they create those, and how do they become those things? Sometimes when they don't fully have choice, you're not able to, as a public restaurant, you're not going to turn people away just because they don't fit some type of silly standard, right? And so I think that's really what the challenge is that you have to put every other ingredient that you have influence over into the pot, knowing that the guest is obviously the most important ingredient, but that that ingredient, let's say, isn't, using a food analogy here, that ingredient isn't going to really go well. It's not going to taste good with everything else in the pot, unless everything else in the pot has really been well thought out, well curated, that all the different textures and tastes and colors are all kind of on point, so that when that last ingredient comes in, you've got this, you've got harmony, and you've got something that's special and that creates energy and that tastes amazing, versus something that, people want to spit out. So I think, we kind of think about every other ingredient, from the lighting to the sound to the way the environment smells, to the process of finding the location, to how you're greeted when you walk in the door, to what the bathroom feels like and what that experience looks like. And were you waiting 10 minutes in line to go, or were you able to just kind of smoothly do your thing and come back? All of that, everything is all about, that plays a role. And as there are certain individuals who will not come back, if certain things aren't up to par, right? And there's certain standards and certain things that we just understand, I think, intuitively, that where we have to be at to attract that type. And then those types of individuals, and again, there's a lot of different types. I don't want to specifically say there's a type, but then those types of individuals then, start talking and saying, hey, we just had the most incredible experience here, and you should check this thing out. And then it becomes something that's of demand, right? And with limited seating and limited capacity, then you start having a little bit more say in who's coming in and who's not, just based on reservation availability. Members will have priority reservations, so that in turn also does impact, the overall kind of dynamic of the venue. But these are all the things that, we think about, and it's really a great conversation and great question.
What a great food analogy. I can tell that you're from the food industry when you start adding all the ingredients together and making out a nice meal. That's awesome. I love how that approach. I want to ask, we've talked about the club membership, which is obviously incredible, leveraging the NFT platform. There's a lot of things that are very exclusive in each one of those kind of elemental club memberships. We also obviously mentioned the restaurant, the market, the events, the structure of that a little bit. I want to talk, Josh, about the SHO Group. I know you guys are just building out the foundation now. You guys have already attracted high caliber tech CEOs as investors as well, which is awesome. But let's visual out SHO Group in 5-7 years. What's that next level, man? What's that vision of it? You mentioned obviously other locations, exclusive locations. Let's talk a little bit about what that ultimate goal is for SHO Group.
Yeah, no, it's always a fun exercise. So, we think of SHO Group obviously as a experiential hospitality platform, and with that comes the desire and focus to build out, as you alluded to, a number of different offerings, starting with the flagship location in San Francisco. As part of the overall project in San Francisco, we're also building a fast casual Japanese sushi and market experience. So for those listeners who are familiar with like Sugarfish in LA as an example, really high quality sushi, kind of served in a bento box style, and you've got kind of different optionality. Again, we don't really have that type of fast casual or grab and go offering of really high caliber Japanese cuisine, but more for like that lunch crowd or the crowd that's on the go. So SHO Market will be all about taking the incredible culinary offering of SHO, the fine dining restaurant, and bringing that to more of a grab and go casual environment. And that's going to be called SHO Market. And that too is something that we're very bullish on and believe that we can, open many locations throughout the U.S. In 5 years, you'll see more SHOs opening. So this isn't really just about, a one and done in San Francisco. Certainly San Francisco is our focus. It's critical that we get this project off the ground and capitalize it. It's a very expensive project because of, the fact that we're building on a rooftop park that's, 90, 100 feet in the air in the center of downtown San Francisco. There's probably nothing more complex about the actual physical construction. You can't find something more complex, perhaps. And then we also have, a couple other focus areas. So we announced recently, the SHO Group announced that we are working in partnership with a hospitality company by the name of Table One that is developing a culinary concept and food hall experience in Las Vegas in an area called the Uncommons. And so Chef SHO and his team, our team, SHO Group's team, will be developing the culinary concept for one of the featured restaurant locations in that project. And that's going to be opening up in May. And we'll begin to do other types of projects like that, where, SHO Group will be developing, continue developing really interesting Japanese culinary concepts and restaurant experiences, hospitality experiences. So, you've got fine dining, you've got retail, and then last piece is events and catering, which we think in the markets that we operate in can be very meaningful, to kind of extending the brand and making it available to private events. And then the last piece is, I think given my background in food and in hospitality, we see other opportunities to kind of extend the brand as maybe into various packaged products, packaged food products. There's a lot of work that's being done today by major brands like Nobu and hospitality and hotels and things of that nature. So you never know, where you can kind of extend the brand. But the best players, I think, often think about kind of bottling up that experience and taking what the brand has become known for and then extending that into other areas of hospitality. And we plan to do that, but in a pretty unique and differentiated way.
Josh, man, this is so exciting to see kind of the evolution of it, and obviously being able to be on the forefront of it and seeing that, and like you mentioned, just build into fruition, and the intricate details that you've had in regards to that, how you think about the DNA of SHO Group's brand and grow, SHO Group's experience, from like we just talked about, the whole flow of it. Josh, I really appreciate you being on here and the unorthodox approach you guys are taking in the hospitality and food industry and leveraging the technology side of things. For those that want to reach out, learn a little bit more, maybe be part of the exclusive, club membership if they apply and they actually are able to get accepted to it. I do know it's very, very sought after. And then as well as maybe even learn a little bit more about SHO Group and what you guys all have in regards to all your pillars you just mentioned. How do they reach out to you and be part of what you got going on, my man?
Yeah, no, thank you. That would be fantastic. We would welcome anyone, any listeners to reach out. People can contact me directly. My email is josh@shogroup, SHO group.com. And we'd be happy to discuss, anyone who's interested in either a membership or especially in investing. Our round is still open, and we're still actively seeking, great strategic investors and individuals who want to be a part of the project.
Awesome, guys. And those links will be in the description below. Josh, I appreciate making yourself so available, putting your email. I'll put his email down there. I'll put the website down there so you guys can learn a little bit more. They got incredible content. And then as well as his LinkedIn so you guys can, communicate and engage with him on that. Josh, again, I really appreciate you being on here and talking about the way to approach this in an unorthodox way, but also a revolutionary, innovative way as well. I always like to ask my guests before I let you go fully, if you think about that young Josh that just started out in the food and beverage, the hospitality industry, and you've obviously done very well for yourself and you're very successful to where you're at now and where you're going. But what kind of insecurities did you have to overcome to become the successful Josh Sigel you are now?
Wow, that's another good question, man. I think as an entrepreneur, we all oftentimes get caught up, or there's a general belief around needing to know how to fail. But ultimately, many of us who are, type A personalities or real drivers, even though, you can be told a million times that, failure over time is going to help ultimately you learn and become the person that you are. And it's really, it's the journey, it's the experience of overcoming those challenges and those failures that really help get you to where you're at. Hard for young Joshua, perhaps to believe that. So I think, if I had one thing to say in terms of those insecurities, it's embrace the failures, embrace the journey. And believe that, each one of those is simply just a building block, to the next opportunity. And that without those failures, you certainly aren't the same person that you are, and you certainly can't appreciate the success that you enjoy. And I think most importantly, you certainly don't have the type of learning, that you gain by failing. So, oftentimes when you're succeeding, I think a lot of people sometimes don't kind of appreciate or take in, what it takes to get to where you are. So for me, it's more about appreciating, the failures and, all the different types of struggles along the way that help to kind of create not only the situation, that we find ourselves in today, but also the ability to appreciate it and enjoy it a little bit more.
Great wisdom, man. Great wisdom on that. And it sucks going through those experiences, but learning from them and enjoying the journey, appreciating it. Really, really great wisdom. Guys, that is the CEO and founder at SHO Group. Make sure you have a SHO experience. My friend, the one and only Josh Sigel. Guys, that is Journey with Christian Evans podcast. Until next time, be uncommon if you can.